Hey everybody, it's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And thanks for being here with us tonight.
Yeah.
So we always like to start the show talking fishing. And we actually have gotten to do a fair amount of fishing since the last time we talked to you. So I guess start with the weekend.
Well, the weekend was, kind of slow. We went up north, fished up there a little bit, and struck out. Caught one tiny bass, probably about that big.
Actually, that's interesting though, because one of the things is we went out to find fish.
Yeah.
And we started in a location on a lake where we thought had some pretty good prospects. And when we got there, we were, finding maybe a mark or two here or there. But all of a sudden, we did see a huge group of fish come in through the graphs. We saw all of those great marks. Well, I did on my graph, and then shortly after, Josh caught it on his as well. So the nice thing is then at that point, we knew that there was, pretty decent school of fish around. Unfortunately, they were moving super fast and very, I would almost say, impossible to keep up with. But the other thing is we found out that they weren't honestly biting that much. So even when we did have lines set out and ready to go for when they came through, it wasn't that we were pulling all that many. So it was an interesting day to kind of balance our time between, we found fish, do we stay, will they bite, or do we move and try to search around and is something else eating somewhere else? So
yeah, well, we decided to stay. We got tunnel vision seeing those big schools come through, and yeah, it bit us in the butt. But then, we went over and we went over to a spot over in De Pere off of Voyagers Park, pretty popular spot. We thought to ourselves, well, when all else fails, go fish some walleyes over in De Pere because, a lot of times that's a good spot to check. And just like everyone else on Sunday, we pretty much struck out. Actually, we caught 2 perch, and that was more than some people caught all day. So, it was slow over there too.
But a great day to have that aqua view ready because, I actually was able to see quite a few fish on the camera. More than one of them was indeed a walleye, so they were swimming through. Did see a whitefish or 2 come through. Did see a whole bunch of perch actually, so that was lucky. That's why we caught those. And did also actually see a gar swim through. So I did not expect to see that, but really kind of a great experience.
Yeah, we actually have to pull that footage out because that would be some cool stuff to see. Just see all those fish swimming through because that was pretty fun.
And the other thing is, we have had actually some great weather this past week. So we were able to kind of sneak out and utilize some of the sunshine those last few days. And we did get out Tuesday as well. And it was nice because we were able to get to one of our favorite kind of backwater spots on the Wolf River. And how'd that go?
Yeah, I went on a little bit early just after lunch, went and popped about, 30 holes and just kind of bounced around until I found fish. One thing that was kind of sneaky was that, sorry, reading a comment. One thing that was kind of sneaky was that, we were fishing in maybe 7 feet of water and the fish were like where you lose your jig and your Vexlar, like when it gets too close to the transducer, that's where those fish were swimming through. So they weren't necessarily marking that well. But if you were fluttering in and out of where that your jig disappears, marks would show up right underneath you, like right there. So that's like a foot under the ice. And
that.
So I fished all day. I caught one really nice crappie on a snare rod.
And I had to work until 4.
She had to work till 4.
Come out after and join.
So 4:30 rolls around. Emily walks out on the ice, grabs the other snare rod, the only other one that went off that day. And then she proceeded to jig like 4 more fish out. And then me and the other guys were watching her catch all these fish. And they left. And then shortly after we left.
But really, it was actually a pretty fabulous day. The bite was on if you were able to kind of find them and target them. And, I think we're looking forward to even sneaking out again tomorrow evening. So for those people that we were able to meet at that little backwater spot, if you are around, come and meet us out there again tomorrow.
Ray, I don't know if there's anything to that, but Sure rings true in my world most of the time. Hey, Dustin, how's it going?
So, with that, let us know how your ice conditions are. Let us know where you're watching from and how fishing is going for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, with that, we have a really unique guest that is coming on tonight that is going to be talking fishing as well, or fish. So, welcome to the show, Theresa.
Hey, Theresa.
Hello there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I guess our first question, if anybody out there doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I work for the Department of Natural Resources. I am the Angler Outreach Program Coordinator. And what that means is that I do whatever I can to get more people fishing. So I'm really excited to be talking to you about this because you've certainly been doing more fishing than I have. I just write about fishing and talk about fishing, but I'd really like to actually do more of it. And I'm going to be doing that pretty soon. So this position I have is pretty unique, one that many people would love to have. I am so fortunate to have it. I've been working for the Department of Natural Resources since 1987. They started, us very young. We started as a small child working for the department. And we have, I came at this through the environmental education angle. I graduated from Stevens Point with a minor in environmental education, and I'm really passionate about our state. I love our state. I love our water. I love our streams. I love the fish. And I wanted to help other people establish a relationship with our resources. So this job came up and I thought, well, that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to be using fishing as the hook to help people connect with our resources. And so we started an angler education program. And it's morphed over the years from a youth program, one that was designed for school teachers and scout leaders, recreation leaders who have fishing in the classroom or as part of the club. And it's morphed into more of an adult program too for fishing, called Fishing for Dinner. So we've had programs where we've taken people out to the driftless area. We've taken people out to the ponds in the Milwaukee area, just around the state. We've concentrated with Fishing for Dinner, concentrated more on the Madison and Milwaukee area with a few other outlying areas. But, then that darn pandemic popped up and that kind of shut us down for a couple of years. So we're really looking forward to reopening these opportunities for people to learn alongside us. And we'll be doing that this month, as a matter of fact. We're having an ice fishing class that'll be based in Madison. It starts off 2 nights virtually and then 1 outdoor experience on Lake Wingra for people to try catch fish. So, and we'll be joined by the UW Madison Fishing Club and team members to really help us out. So pretty excited about that.
That is really unique. One of the other things that's really unique is you had kind of mentioned that you have, I guess, the experience of going, urban fishing and, kind of out in the middle of nowhere too. And I don't think everyone kind of gets that experience of urban fishing. So, can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. Madison is a city of lakes. We are so lucky to live here, those of us who do. I'm an easy bike ride to fishable waters here in Madison. And so we have Lake Wingra, which has muskie in it. I've never caught one, but I've seen them. And plenty of panfish in Lake Wingra and Lake Mendota. So we have had people fishing. We've had our classes here in Madison. And then also in Milwaukee, there are the county parks. Milwaukee, I grew up in Milwaukee, and that town, the planners did a wonderful job laying down the map for parks so that people would have a place to go right in town. So there are park lagoons that are stocked by the Hunger Task Force, and that's a hatchery. And then we, the DNR, we work with them on stocking permits and figuring out where to stock the fish for another program that's coming up this Saturday, as a matter of fact, at 2 of the county parks, Brown Deer and Greenfield Park. It's a kids program. So those are the urban waters. So urban waters have a slightly different regulation situation. They're really only for kids or disabled people for a time. So those ponds get stocked, and then the clubs will have these clinics, and then after that, after those big clinics in February and April, then those waters are open to other members of the public. But kids get the first crack at it in the Milwaukee area anyway, and a few other urban ponds or community fishing ponds in other parts of the state. So, but urban fishing, I mean, it is really pretty cool to be sitting there in our canoe on Lake Wingra, looking at the state capitol and pulling in some bluegill. It's really pretty awesome.
Yeah, actually, you're talking a little bit about Milwaukee, and gosh, it reminds me we've gone down to the harbor a time or two to try to pick up some trout. And I've never actually been that lucky. I'm still learning kind of how to target that fish like that. But to have that experience of, fishing in such big waters, such big hopes for big fish, and just being by all the buildings, and even as the night goes on and it gets dark and the light from the city, and just really a unique experience to be able to fish like that.
Absolutely. And it is so interesting that we have such diverse fishing opportunities here in this area. You can go into the backcountry, which I've done plenty of times with my family. We've gone canoeing where we portage our canoe in and set up camp somewhere and fish. And then we come, get on our bikes and go down to Lake Wingra here in town. And so we have so many opportunities. We're so fortunate here in Wisconsin.
That is really cool. It is always great to hear about the opportunities for, kids and youth in the areas. You highlighted a little of that, but it is also great to hear about opportunities for adults in the areas, because I think, fishing is such a growing sport, and we all kind of groan when we hear pandemic or the C word. But I think, that's part of what is urging people to go out and try things like this.
Absolutely. Our license sales shot up just dramatically during the pandemic. And I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers. I should have them, but I don't. Anyway, Zing, went way up, and it was pretty exciting to see people out there. People, they were cooped up. They wanted to try something new. So, well, why not fishing? Maybe it's something that they hadn't done since they were kids, or maybe they missed the boat as a kid. They never learned how. So we have had a lot of adults heading out. And so that's kind of what Fishing for Dinner was about. We have always had angler education for kids. Fishing for Dinner is angler ed for grown-ups. Kind of the same stuff, because we all need to know the same things. We all need to know how to tie a knot, how to cast. Can I keep this fish? Should I eat this fish? What's the best way to handle it? If it's not a keeper, how do I gently let it go so it lives to see another day? So all of those things, no matter the age, probably pretty much the same skills. But for the adult ed programs, we take a slightly different approach.
And then, I think Josh had been kind of in contact with you because I know it's closed now, but just shortly before this, there was an opportunity for somebody to kind of lead fishing in the area. And that's really unique. So I know that's probably not open for this year, but if people are interested, can you tell us about that program for the future?
Are you asking about fishing in the neighborhood?
Yeah. So what Emily's referring to is, so if any of you aren't subscribed to the DNR, the weekly DNR emails, you really should be, because they bring, not only do they remind you about free fishing weekends and things like that, they also tell you about opportunities such as grants and possible jobs. Right. And this job that Emily was talking about was an internship for a young person to drive around a fish mobile and kind of loan gear out in specific places that were timed so that group of kids could go down and meet the fish mobile, use some fishing rods, and that way they wouldn't need to buy all that stuff. They could borrow it for the afternoon and then return it to the fish mobile so they could drive to a different location.
Right. So those are two things that we're talking about, and I'm so excited about both of them. So the Fishmobile is like the bookmobile. It's, it shows up at an appointed time, and you can borrow a fishing pole. And we'll also have some programming involved too with this. And we're doing this because we got inspired by this by the Recreational Boating and Fishing Foundation, who was offering up these they call them mobile first catch centers, which is why I changed it to Fishmobile, because it's easier and more fun to say. So the Fishmobile, they were offering these up, and we said, yeah, we'll take one of those. And it just so happened that we had some extra money too, because during the pandemic, we really couldn't spend any money. So we had this little nest egg. So I thought, okay, our BFF will buy us one, and we'll buy one too. So we'll have two of them. So one will live in Milwaukee, and the other will live here in Madison, and they'll go venture out to other places too. But for the summer, they're going to be staffed by our Fishing in the Neighborhood interns, so FIN is the acronym, and FinTurn is the fun little name we have for them. So they'll be staffed by our FinTurns, and so those will go to neighborhoods, and we'll be working with neighborhood centers that serve people that historically have been underrepresented in the fishing community. We know that this hasn't always been a nice place for people from communities of color. They felt threatened when they went out fishing. It was not a safe passage from home to the fishing hole. So sometimes there were some areas in between that were simply not safe for a Black person to go. So we want to make sure that everybody feels safe and knows that they have every right to this resource, that this belongs to all of us. All the water belongs to all the people. And that's by virtue of the public trust doctrine that goes back way, way, way. So we just really want to make sure that people understand that they have a sense of ownership, and with ownership comes responsibility and stewardship. So we want everybody to be a part of that. And so that's what the Fishmobile and the FinTurns will be helping to do. We've had the FinTurn program on and off through the years, and I've worked with partners such as the Urban Ecology Center, Madison City Parks, where we planted these FinTurns to work in the community and welcome people out there to go fishing. So keep doing that.
That's really cool, because I love that idea of being able to, borrow gear, loan something out so that people can go and experience that. But to have somebody there who is, knowledgeable enough to maybe assist in some of those situations. You had talked about some education programs before this that'll teach people, if you're not going to keep this fish, how to return it and things like that. And I think, people are so excited to go out and fish that they forget about those other things that come off. You see those people out in public parks that all of a sudden they do catch a fish and they're like, what do I do with it? Yeah. Yeah. So to have somebody there, that could be a really cool experience for somebody who, loves fishing themselves and wants to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I've heard from people who've attended the Fishing for Dinner class is they don't know how to clean it. They don't know how to cook it. So that's part of the whole thing, fishing for dinner. Right now, during that C word, we can't really cook for people. We don't have the green light to do that just yet, but we can still show people how to do it, and then they can take it home and do it themselves. So that's good. Yeah. So, about tackle, we have 50 some tackle loaner sites around the state. So in addition to these two really cool Fishmobiles, we have these loaner sites that are at our state office, some of our state office buildings, or DNR, not just any office, but at the DNR centers, and about half of them are at state parks that are situated on the water. So if you show up camping one weekend and, oh, dang, forgot my fishing pole, we got you covered. We have fishing equipment that you can borrow right on the spot. And we also loan it out to school teachers if they are incorporating a fishing program in their classroom curriculum, or scout leaders or whomever, it's out there.
Well, and that's actually very cool to know about. And, quick shout out to when people come across those awesome resources to not take advantage of them. Because, I know especially in summer, we show up at boat launches sometimes. And, once in a while, you'll even see like those really cool stands where there's like life vests and stuff that are, provided free of charge, especially
Mhm.
for youth. And so that is so cool. If you show up, you have a youth, you need one of those, there's one available for you, because the key is keeping everybody safe. But the other important key is then returning that. So it's there, for somebody else to use again later.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that because sometimes our tackle does not come back the way anybody would want to use it. So we really call upon people's better angels to take good care of the gear that they borrow. If things break, that happens, but don't just try to hide it. Just say, hey, this broke, and we'll say, oh, too bad, and we'll fix it or we'll replace it. But if you just kind of just try to hide it, then nobody knows until the next time somebody goes to take it out. No, it's broken. So if you can fix it, great.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So all kinds of great programs, and it's actually really cool that we've been able to talk kind of open water and ice. Oh, and Ray is here asking if there's actually a way to donate to some of these programs.
Sure. You could, if you wanted to donate cash, you could send a check to the Department of Natural Resources and put angler education in the memo line. Or if you wanted to donate gear, sometimes people are cleaning out their parents' estate, and bless their hearts, they just can't bear to throw anything away. So they give it to us, and then we throw it away if it's junk. So, I mean, it's hard to throw stuff away. I understand. But if you wanted to donate gear that's in good working order, we'll be glad to take it. But we really don't have time to repair stuff that doesn't come in good working order. So thank you so much for asking that question. Certainly we would be happy to donate. Donating time is another good thing to do. I know time is precious. So all of those tackle owner sites around the state, they could really use some help with people to go in there now and then and give the equipment a good going over to see what really is junk and should be tossed and what can be fixed. Does it need to be relined? That would be great because our staff, we've had some staffing shortages lately, and my colleagues just don't have always the time to keep that gear in good working order. So any help we can get with that would be wonderful.
Well, and that's a really good that would be a really good thing for a lot of the people out there that's watching, because that's something that a lot of them know how to do, and a lot of them are really willing to do that. So just knowing that, and then maybe we can provide. Is there a link somewhere I can find and post for all the site locations?
Yes, if you go to Tackle Loaner Program, then I think it'll say Tackle Loaner Contacts. You can find all of the different sites, and some of them there's a little key by it that says volunteers welcome or something like that. So that would be
Very cool. Yeah, I'll definitely put that in the comments.
It's a great service project. If there's a club, a fishing club or a civic organization, or maybe a high school student needs to earn some service points, that would be another good project. Or an Eagle Scout who needs some points. That would be a good project to take on, is to go help take care of these tackle loaner sites around the state.
Well, and actually two really cool things about that. First of all, there's so many people out there that wouldn't describe themselves as people. Does that make sense? A people person. Not everybody is able to go and like host an education session or have an on ice event. And there's so much that goes in all of that. But if you are looking to give back, that is really a fabulous way, is to be able to go and help with some of that tackle or sorting or fixing or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you're also mentioning, and Josh is looking it up right now, this tackle loaner program, kind of referring to a website. And I mean, actually, that's something that is even worth a mention is the DNR website and, all the fishing information specifically on there. I think that there's a lot more available than people even realize. And one of the things I look forward to, I'm sure it goes through winter, but I find myself checking it in summer, is there's always a list of tournaments that are occurring. And I don't know if it's statewide or if I look at a local list somehow. But I know that if I have specific locations that I'm going to fish that are prone to being busy, I know that if I can look up and find if there's a tournament that day, I'm going to be able to avoid that spot.
Yep. Excellent point. Yep.
So as far as the website, besides looking up tournaments and things like that, can you highlight a few of the other pieces of information that are available there?
Yeah, one thing that people should be looking at right now is the grants, is our grant. We have a grant and for organizations that want to do more in terms of recruiting and retaining anglers. And that grant period closes on the 15th of this month. So it'll take a little bit of time. So I would not delay in reviewing the grant guidance and the application. Excuse me. So you'll want to take some time, but we're looking for clubs, community centers, just various levels of government, the local parks and rec departments, nature centers, different kinds of organizations that like to have that want to have some sort of a fishing program as part of their offerings, and we can help with that. So there the maximum, the cap on the grant is $15,000, but smaller, we've had people submit grants for under $500 too. They wanted to do a fly tying program at a nature center, and so yeah, here you go. So, but it's not a grant application that you can complete in an hour and a half. You need to just set aside some time to do it and submit that to us by the 15th.
And gosh, that's a really cool thing that you're bringing up, because I think a lot of times when people hear like grants and stuff, they think of like, I don't know, you have to be the DNR to win that or something, but I mean, we have a lot of people with, different fishing communities that they are part of or are running or working on. So do you have to have a physical location for this? Like, do you have to be a school or an official business, or can you be kind of a non-profit or organization?
Nonprofit organizations are definitely encouraged. Schools are encouraged. One thing I will say that we can't support tournaments, anything that is a for-profit. But schools, food security systems, people who are interested in helping people make sure that they have food on the table. That's one type of organization that might be interested in getting this grant. So, I should also say that this program isn't intended for people to fill their freezers. It's not, none of these fishing programs are about that, because we have already seen what happens when people do that. Then there's just too much stress on the fishery. So it's really about sampling, having a wonderful sample of fresh fish. I mean, how exciting is that? So, community-based programs, public health centers, places like that, and fishing clubs, are really good, would be good fits for this kind of a project.
That's excellent. Ray is asking about taking a vet fishing or disability. And I know earlier in the show, we mentioned that there are some locations, especially in cities, that are only open to, those who identify as with a disability, or if you are a youth or a child. Besides that, is there other information available for vets or people with disabilities?
Well, Fishing Has No Boundaries has been around for a long time, and they've done really well. There's another organization, National squirrel something. I'm sorry, messing that one up. I don't remember what it's called, but they also work with people with disabilities. And as far as the vets go, there's a couple different organizations that are affiliated through Trout Unlimited to get vets out fishing. There is fishing Project Healing Waters, but there's another one, and the name of that one is escaping me right now. Another organization that works with vets. There's another one, Casting for Recovery. It's a fly fishing organization for women who are breast cancer survivors. So that's another good organization to get involved in if you want to work with people, and or you know someone who would benefit from being a part of that organization.
That is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So we have talked about a lot of different aspects of things. And if I'm leaving anything out, then definitely let us know that. But I do know that there's got to be somebody out there that's watching and hearing us talking about fishing, and that you get to do this kind of for your job. So if there is somebody who is interested in, a DNR career path or doing outreach, something like what you're doing, how could somebody go about doing something like that?
Well, I think I mentioned that my educational background was in environmental education, but I don't think I mentioned forestry. I'm a forester by training, and but where my passion was environmental education. So that's one way to do it. Communications is really important. Being a good communicator is critical. And when I've done a lot of trainings, I've trained school teachers to make this program part of their curriculum. And you don't have to really know how to fish to get started, but you do have to know how to coordinate a program, how to wrangle people. So I've taught school teachers how to tie a fishing knot in 5 minutes, and then they go off and teach somebody else. So that part's not so hard. But getting that all together is sometimes more of the challenge, doing all of the logistics and the behind the scenes and all of that sort of thing. So having a degree in natural sciences is one, and also human sciences. The human dimensions is really, really important to find out how are we going to get people to come out here. The pandemic really, just license sales skyrocketed, but we want to keep them coming. So helping to, understanding what make people tick, how we're going to keep them engaged, keep them involved. Those are really important skills too. And then watch the DNR's website. There's a link on there for, you want to work for the DNR, join us. Look at that part. Most of the jobs, all of the jobs will go through the WISC.gov job site. So you get on the register to get announcements about job openings. And then, this last round of the internships, that was through the overall Department of Administration, and DNR put our hat in the ring and said, yes, we would like to have some interns working with us too this summer. And so various programs within the DNR submitted not an application, but just got our programs on the list of how many people we would like to hire for our programs for interns, for summer interns. So a lot of people at DNR, like myself, we started off as limited term employees, which means you don't get vacation or sick days, but you get some good experience. And a lot of times that will lead to a permanent position where you get paid vacation, which is always really nice.
Yeah.
So, you just need to stick with it, and just if you have some really younger listeners right now, I would say finish your education, just so that you have some marketable skills, either in the sciences or communications.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So, we talked about all kinds of things here. If people want to keep up and follow along with, the information that continues to come out, how would people do that?
They could go to our website, and there's a little red envelope, notifications. It's called Gov Delivery. So when you click on that, you'll get this whole menu of different topics that show up on our website. And when those topics are updated, then you'll get a notification about that. So for example, when I was wanting to promote the clinics in Southeast Wisconsin and the ice fishing clinic that I'm doing, we sent out a Gov Delivery to people who subscribed to those pages. And then they got notified that this is happening, sign up now. So that's one way to do it.
Cool.
That's
And
awesome.
we don't spam you. We don't change, if I've taken down an event, well, that's changing the page, but I'm not going to send out a message that says, hey, that doesn't happen anymore. So don't worry about getting spammed. We're pretty conservative about that. We don't want to clutter people's inboxes with junk.
Yeah, definitely. I imagine people appreciate that.
Yeah, and we also have a Facebook page too. So sometimes our events get posted on there too.
Cool.
That's awesome. So I imagine that people will definitely want to be checking that out, and definitely go and check out the website, because it looks like there is a bunch of different, events and ways for outreach, and some of them might even be local to you guys. So definitely go and check that out. And Theresa, thanks for being here tonight and talking about all of this.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. Enjoy talking to you.
Yeah. And to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because the questions and the comments and your thoughts along the way, we love to hear that as well. And, being able to share all this out is a great thing to do. So with that, looking forward to next week's edition of The Night Bite.